Hey there, my name is LexC, and thank you so much for joining me today for this book review. Today I'm reviewing the book, We Need to Talk, How to Have Conversations That Matter by Celeste Headlee. As y'all know, I truly heavily believe in going to the library, going to your local library to get some good reads, and that's exactly where I found this book. Hold on. Let's see about my lighting really quickly, because yeah, that adds some warmth. I like that. Yeah, so I believe in going to the library, and this is the latest read that I got from the library. This book, like I said, We Need to Talk, How to Have Conversations That Matter by Celeste Headlee. Copywritten in 2017. There are 234 pages. Not including the introduction and not including the acknowledgments and the sources page in the back, but very good book. It is divided into two parts. Part one is basically defining the differences between conversation and communication, and part two is pointing out specific instances of where conversation and communication can be improved upon. So I would highly recommend this book. I really enjoyed this read, and it was an easy read. So the purpose of the book, I just want to read the little insert on the inside here. Where is it? Today, most of us communicate from behind electronic screens, and studies show that Americans feel less connected and more divided than ever before. The blame for some of this disconnect can be attributed to our political landscape, but the erosion of our conversational skills as a society lies with us as individuals. And the only way forward, says Headlee, is to start talking to each other. In We Need to Talk, she outlines the strategies that have made her a better conversationalist and offers actionable steps anyone can take to improve their communication skills. So, in my life lately, I feel like I've been having poor communication. So for me, it stems from not answering my text messages quickly enough. There's just way too many people trying to get into contact with me at times. So I struggle with communication and like having a sense of urgency on that regard, right? I'm a lot better with answering my phone calls, but I am not the best with handling conflict. When the opposing party is giving me too much pushback or too much, just whatever, like if it's not going to be a decent conversation, you know what I mean? So I figured, maybe there's something wrong with the way that I'm communicating. Maybe there's something wrong with my conversation. So when things like that happen in my life, I like to seek out resources that will help me to develop into a better person, and communication is something I want to work on. So I found a book on communication, hence We Need to Talk. It was perfect. It stood out to me. I don't know how I found it, but I randomly found it in the library. And now I want to share some of my favorite sections with you from the book. So starting in part one, I want to take you to chapter 2. And the name of the chapter is Communication and Conversation Are Not the Same. And this is in regards to empathy. So let's see here. I find this development to be extremely worrisome. Empathy at its most basic is the ability to sense someone else's feelings or to be aware of their emotional state and to imagine their experience. Not just to recognize that a coworker is sad, but to imagine what he or she may be going through and what it would feel like if you were going through the same thing. To experience empathy, we must establish a connection between our idea of ourselves and of another person. We have to ask questions like, would I like it if that happened to me? How would I feel if someone ran over my mailbox? Or in my case, how must it feel to be responsible for 25 fourth grade students every day? Empathy is a critical human ability. And this part sticks out to me because I feel like I do a good job of being a very empathetic and being an empathic person. There's some protection that needs to happen there because as an empath, we tend to take on the mood and the feeling of whoever we're around, whoever we're conversing with, and kind of just like absorbing their energy, right? But this part, having empathy, is a huge part of communicating effectively, because it's talking about reading the room essentially and recognizing the state of mind someone is in, recognizing how someone may be feeling, and being able to fine tune the conversation accordingly. So there's something in here where it was like the person got laid off from a job, but like if I was the person and I'm happy, right? And my friend comes to me and says, hey, I'm not feeling too great. I was just laid off. And because I'm feeling better, I might say something very generic like, oh, well, I got fired from my serving job back in 2017. It's going to be okay. It turned out fine for me, so it'll turn out fine for you. That's not empathy. That is really brushing off that person's experience and it's relating to them, but in a way that shifts the focus away from their situation and what they're going through. And me personally, I hate those generic type of responses because it's called toxic positivity. It's actually a real term. People sometimes just want you to understand how they're feeling and try to feel what they're feeling so they can relate and connect to you in that way. So it's a miscommunication and it makes you come off as like you don't pay attention or you're a little selfish because one person is in a good mood and the other is not. But to communicate effectively with each other, we have to be able to come to each other's level, right? So the person who might be in a better circumstance, recognizing and understanding that the person who is not in the best circumstance, they need an open ear. They need not a generic response, but a genuine response to what they're going through. And that's how we can have better communication. The next part I want to go to is on page 25. So the same chapter, this is chapter 2, communication and conversation are not the same. Page 25 on being in each other's presence and being a friend. It's not about what someone can do for you. It's who and what the two of you become in each other's presence. The notion of doing nothing but spending time in each other's company has, in a way, become a lost art. People are so eager to maximize efficiency of relationships through text and tweets that they have lost touch with what it is to be a friend. As Sharp points out, meaningful connection requires an investment of time. Oh, y'all, if y'all knew what I was going through. Meaningful connection requires an investment of time. Conversations are uniquely human, and like us, they are complicated and sometimes chaotic and often rambling. That's why another essential ingredient for good conversation is attention. So, she is scratching the mess out of that post right now. That connection requires an investment of time, and being in front of each other is the important part, right? So, yes, we're able to stay connected through social media. Yes, we're able to stay connected through tweets and emails even, but the connection is not the same if you are not face to face with someone. And I would share some romantic issues that I'm having, but I ain't trying to go through there. But, one of my grievances was not spending physical face to face time. Some people would believe that being on the phone is enough, or sending a text is enough, or sometimes friends get into the habit of checking social media and thinking that's enough without ever reaching out and making that personal connection. As humans, we are social beings, and that physical touch aspect, me laying eyes on you, being able to reach out and touch you, that is so crucial and important to communication and maintaining connection. If you don't make time to maintain and make physical connections with the people that you say you care about, then the connection is not going to be as strong as you think. You can see someone on social media every day and never know what they're going through. And you thinking that you liking a picture is enough to show support. It's not. Even as an artist, right? People liking something on social media or reposting on a story, while I do appreciate those things, it means so much when people take time out of their day to come to a performance and physically see me, physically take a picture, cheer me on. We're in the same room, and that energy is it's beautiful to have in the same space. So This part resonated with me so much, man. Ooh, and I wish I could send this book to somebody, but hey, we're not gonna go there. So the next part that I want to get to, so this is part 2 of the book, and we're going to chapter 8, page 132, on facing the argument head on. All right, where do I start this? Okay. Imagine this. You're at a theatrical performance, and during a dramatic scene, the lead actress's wig starts to slide off her head. Probably the worst thing she can do at that point is to ignore the wig. No one in the audience will hear a word she says, no matter how great the dialogue is. They will be focused on that wig, waiting for it to drop. A better solution would be to grab it and take it off, or fix it while saying, "This damn thing never stays on." She needs to openly acknowledge that something has gone wrong and then do her best to make it right. The same holds true for tension in a relationship. Ignoring the problem doesn't make it go away. Don't avoid a conversation because you're afraid of an argument. If the argument is coming, face it and try to make it as productive as possible. I've done this recently. And although it was very uncomfortable, I see Flame Hefner is on here, and he knows because he's been my accountability partner through this whole process. But I was having an issue with somebody. They added me on social media, and I don't know what I did to trigger that. But, at this friend's advice, he was like, "Hey, why don't you try to make peace, reach out and offer to, do lunch or something." So I heeded that advice. I was like, yeah, this is not comfortable, but you're right. Let me try to face this head on because I don't know what I did wrong. And it did not go the way that I hoped that it would, which is okay. But what I'm proud of myself for is taking the initiative to see what's wrong. Can this be a conversation? Can we civilly speak to each other, even though we might not really like each other very much, or there are things that have caused tension between me and this person? So even though I did not get the result I wanted, and I didn't get the peace that I was searching for, it was still really good, and it shows a lot of growth in myself, because usually I would just ignore stuff like that, block the person, be done with it. I ended up doing that, but I reached out for a conversation first. So very proud of myself on that. And just this year, that is one of my goals as well. I have these quarterly goals that I'm working towards. I've mentioned before Jesse Itzler, How to Plan Your 2024 in 24 Minutes. And he recommends having quarterly goals. So every 3 months, have a habit that you are working on forming. So the first quarter of the year for me was to wake up and pray and meditate when I wake up in the morning. So talk to God and meditate on my day. Second quarter is checking up on people. When I think of someone, go ahead and shoot a text, go ahead and do a phone call. The third thing is escaping me, but the fourth thing is to stand up for myself and speak up for myself more, which is something that I don't do. I don't like to have energy for arguments, but I end up having a lot of turmoil in myself because I don't let out what I'm feeling, and I don't let my mind and my thoughts be known. And that can cause a lot of turmoil in myself. I usually just, write it off. And when you value relationships, or you value your perception to people, or you value how people interact with you, I think it is important to speak your mind and state, like what's going on and why you disagree or agree with something. So yeah, I'm starting that habit early, but with addressing things head on, I feel very proud of myself. That's what I've been working on. And also, thanks to this book, I've been getting better with doing that in my communication. So more on this part, right? There are some simple ways to do this. If an argument is coming, face it and try to make it as productive as possible. There are some simple ways to do this. 1, don't make it personal. Don't talk about their personal flaws or use phrases like, "This is what you always do," or "Here's your problem." 2, think about solutions. So let me address this because the real life experience just got me on this, y'all. Don't make it personal. Don't talk about their personal flaws or use phrases like, "This is what you always do." So in this particular interaction, I didn't bother I did ask for grace in some instance, but I did not bother trying to poke at anything. Instead, I fessed up to, admitted where I went wrong in the situation. So the flaws are like reflecting back on me. That's what I think I did well with this past interaction. Number 2, think about solutions instead of focusing only on what you don't like or what made you angry. A productive argument is not just a chance to complain. So, on the other person's part, I felt like there was a lot of complaining that was happening. And the solution my basic solution was to address the situation head on and offer peace, extend an olive branch, treat the person to a lunch. That was my solution. And then we talk civilly and we try to, hash things out. It's never a productive conversation if things are just going back and forth and there's no solution being found, So without trying to say too much, I'm pulling from inspiration from this recent thing that just happened. Number 3, be willing to let the other person win. Finding a resolution that helps you both doesn't always mean declaring a victor or affirming that you are right. For me, definitely was willing to let this person have it. Now, maybe I did not have to block the person, right? Some people would see that as immature. For me, it's an energy thing. I don't feel like if I don't feel like we're making headway and we're not finding a solution, then there's really no point in talking anymore. And that's just how I tend to approach things. Right or wrong, it works for me. The progress is in addressing things head on. So yeah, the other person definitely got out a lot of what they wanted to say, and I felt like a punching bag. And I don't think we really came to a solution, but that conversation was opened up anyway. I'll say that. So be willing to let the other person win. Finding a resolution that helps you both doesn't always mean declaring a victor. So basically, agree to disagree. And that's forcibly what I did. Maybe I didn't have to block, but that's what happened. That's what happened. So now, what is 125? Oh, to pair that with a few pages before, page 125, it's actually addressing, it talks about being able to disagree with one another without disrespecting one another. So people who think that I'm not a good communicator, they're usually the people who cut me off. They're usually the people who are overly passionate, overly emotional, and I don't feel comfortable speaking with them. I am a firm believer that we can disagree on things, but we should never be disrespecting each other. And that means that you need to have a handle on your emotions. Some people, when their emotions get heightened, they say things they don't mean, or they say things that they say they don't mean. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I said that because I was angry. That's not a good enough excuse for me, because I feel like I control myself and my reaction to people. I expect that same courtesy in return. Just because I'm angry does not mean that I should disrespect you. Just because someone's angry doesn't mean that you want them to come hit you or threaten your life, right? I liken it to the same reasoning. Just because we don't like each other, just because we disagree on something, that doesn't mean I have to disrespect you. I don't need to call you out of your name. I still have a basic respect for you to speak to you in a calm manner and to keep the conversation civil. So that's what that part was on about. Let's see, chapter 12. We are still in part 2. Chapter 12 is You Can't Know Everything, page 176. This is on admitting when you don't know something. Stephen Levitt suggests that the temptation to pretend to be an expert is especially strong in the business world. He says the MBA, Master of Business Administration students he teaches are very good at faking like they know the answer when they have no idea. But he does go on to say that the fake it till you make it mentality is completely counterproductive. It might keep your job for another week or another month, he says, but that's not the point. The goal is to be good and to improve and to learn and to make things better. And the only way to do that is to start by saying, I don't know. I would take this conclusion one step further. When you pretend that you don't know something, when you pretend that you know something you don't know, you not only limit your potential, you also risk taking advantage of someone's trust in you. Now, This immediately makes me think of my childhood and how when I would get in trouble, sometimes my parents would ask me, why did you do this? Or, why, blah, 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 blah. And I would say, I don't know. And I got a little bit of trauma from that because my parents would tell me, I don't know is not a good answer. But actually, I don't know is a very good answer. Oh, you going to sleep all of a sudden, computer? That's crazy. But I don't know is actually a good answer. And it's honest. If you truly don't know, so maybe as a kid, there were times where I really didn't know. There were other times when maybe I was just trying to get out of getting in trouble. But when you truly don't know something, it's okay to just admit that you don't know it. Trying to look like you know more than you do, and then you get placed in a position where it's found out that you're inadequate and you don't have the skills needed to complete the job, that's more embarrassing. And it might make whoever referred you look bad. It'll make whoever hired you look bad because they're spending money and time on someone and something that's not going to pan out because you don't have the skill set. You don't actually know what you're doing. So yeah, breaking people's trust is a huge thing. It's okay to say you don't know, and you'll actually garner more respect when you admit to not knowing something. Because now you are open to, hey, I don't know this, but I would love to learn how to do this. People are more willing to accept that versus you blatantly lying and making it seem like you can do something that you actually don't have the capability to do. So that part really stuck out to me. I got 2 more sections for y'all. We're going to go to chapter 14 on page 203. I need to return this book soon. Chapter 14 is Travel Together. Page 203 on staying attentive and in the moment for the best conversations. At this point, I hope it goes without saying, the best conversations are unplugged. Put away your smartphone, turn away from your computer, and mute any technology that might make noise. It's a good idea to permanently turn off most notifications on your phone anyway. Do you really need to know every time somebody likes your post on Facebook? Do you need to know the moment that someone shared your photo on Instagram? Probably not. The average adult checks their cell phone 110 times a day. That's a glance every 13 minutes. Instead of trying to resist the urge to look at it while you're talking, just keep it out of sight. This stands out to me because I hate it when I'm in someone's company and they can't focus on me and they can't focus on giving me attention. It feels very rude and it shows me that you're not really listening. People actually cannot multitask. Multitasking is not a thing with people. So if you're on your phone and supposed to be talking to me, you're not listening to me. You're looking at whatever's happening in your phone and you're not giving me thoughtful responses when I'm looking to you to continue the conversation. So eliminate those distractions, put the technology away, put the phones away, turn it on silent, and be in the moment with the person that you are physically in front of. And side note, a lot of people actually get mad at me for this because when I am physically in somebody's presence, my phone is on silent. I don't want, this interaction to be interrupted, but that causes a lot of people to not be able to get into contact with me when they want to get in contact with me. So for me, sometimes I found that that's a double-edged sword, but the people that I am sitting with, they appreciate it because I give my full undivided attention. And then when the next person gets the opportunity to be in my presence, they can understand, oh, this is why maybe I'm not able to get in touch with Lexi like I would like to, because when she's locked in with you, she is locked in and there's not going to be any interruptions or anything messing up the vibes. All right. Last section I want to share with you. Chapter 16, Sometimes We Should Not Talk. Page 225, this is on isolating yourself when you don't feel like talking. If you don't have the energy or motivation to focus on another person, it's best to isolate yourself. That's how you avoid angry outbursts or saying things you don't mean. I just talked about that, right? Small talk may be grating, but other conversations can be downright exhausting. I recently had to excuse myself when a colleague started describing her sister's troubled marriage. I don't know that colleague well and had never met her sister. She needed to give voice to her concerns and receive supportive energy in return, but I didn't have the energy to spare. I told her, I'm so sorry for this situation. I'm sure it's stressful. I wish I had the time to talk about it, but I have a deadline to meet today. This was a better solution than to listen with half an ear and then say something vacuous like, "That's too bad, what a bummer." Much better to send her in search of a more dedicated listener. A good conversation requires energy and focus, two commodities that are often in short supply. If you are unable to engage meaningfully, I would advise not engaging at all. Be honest, be polite, and walk away. And I love this. Good morning, DJ Proof. What's up? And I love this because this is piggybacking off of what I said. When you are in front of people, it's important that you make people feel important by giving your undivided attention. If you are distracted, if you know you may not have the capacity to receive or to talk about what this person needs to talk about, then it is okay to let them know so that, like the book says, they can go search for someone who would be more invested in what they need to talk about. They get the help that they need and they feel heard. And you don't come off as someone who's not paying attention or someone who doesn't care. You may actually care, but you may not have the energy to give that person. Just be upfront and honest about that. And yeah, that's the last bit that I have in this book. I would highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. This is We Need to Talk by Celeste Headlee. We need to talk. How to have conversations that matter. The glare is crazy on this. But yeah, We Need to Talk. How to have conversations that matter by Celeste Headlee. Highly recommend it. I got this from my local library. You can probably find this on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or something like that. Overall, it's a really great read. There are some actionable steps in here to help you to become a better communicator and a better conversationalist. And yeah, I hope you check it out for yourself. But thank y'all so much for tuning into this book review. I hope that you would actually take the time to go read this for yourself. If not, then I hope that I covered enough of my favorite sections to give you a good idea of how to become a better conversationalist and a better communicator. My name is LexC. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, peace.
Woke up on the couch this morning, got up on my feet just before the beep. Listened to my stomach, it was snoring. I forgot to eat before I went to sleep. Woke up in the kitchen, about to make some breakfast. Something on my teeth just before I make my eggs